In this video, I follow a villager around for an entire day in Animal Crossing New Horizons. No interference, simply 24 straight hours of standing alongside one. And who might that be, you ask? Roald. I couldn't think of anyone better to stare at for a day than the adorable little penguin. So now all that's left to do is find him and start the timer. In-game, villagers wake up around 6 a.m, so I woke up at 5:50 and headed over to his house to wait. I plan on starting this journey at 6 a.m, so I won't leave his side until 6 a.m. the next day. While we're waiting for the penguin, let's change into a little more appropriate attire. I think he'll be a fan of our shirt. 6 a.m. rolled around and there was no sign of life in the house. Villagers don't all wake up exactly at 6 a.m, as that'd be kinda creepy, so I just stood outside his house waiting for the lights to come on. Guess Roald had a long day yesterday because he waited till 6:30 to rise and grind. I headed in, prepared to stay by his side for longer than he probably wanted me to. Roald didn't waste any time, immediately waking up in his exercise clothes and started to rip out some dumbbell curls. He did a clean 20 reps, took a quick breather, and then got right back to grinding 30 some more. He took a little break on the bench when I got to thinking, where does this penguin sleep? Pretty much all the other villagers' houses at least have a bed, but Roald? He's decorated with a chair made out of ice and some birch log benches. Did a little research and it turns out penguins usually sleep on their bellies on the snow, so I guess his flooring checks out. Roald then decided he couldn't get enough of his polar bear ice sculpture, so he snapped a picture of one. Got right back to curling and did not stop for almost half an hour. He would occasionally pull out his Nook phone to take more pictures of the sculpture, but was literally just doing 30 minutes of curls. 7 a.m. now and he was still going at the dang curls. Being the good stalker I am, I went up and talked to him in order to give him a little rest. All your muscles are unbelievably sore? Well, I'd imagine. He kept at it until about 7:18 when he finally decided to change back into his regular clothes and just walk around. Look, we're finally matching. Almost an hour later. I guess Roald isn't ready to face the world just yet as he waddled around his house for another 30 minutes straight, occasionally plopping down on the bench. 8 a.m. came and went with no sign of Roald going outside. This is when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wasn't sure if a villager would ever just dip out of their house while you're in it, so I left to encourage him to join me. It only took him a couple of minutes to get the hint, and then he shoved me off of his front doorstep and decided to go fishing by the river in his backyard. After coming up empty-handed, he stopped for a little bit just to sit and soak in the sun. With the camera angle I had, it looked like the butterfly in the background was just chilling on top of his head. He gave the river another go, starting another cycle of just sitting and fishing. Did he ever catch any? We may never know. He would continue this through 9 a.m. until he got up and wandered back to his house. Turns out he wanted a lollipop for his first meal of the day. Breakfast of champions right there. Took him about 10 minutes before he shoved it back into his pocket, and then took on some light reading while sitting on the bench. He continued this for another half an hour. Respect to him for reading, but I really wanted him to do other things. I'm not really trying to watch him walk around his house for 24 hours. 10 a.m., I tried going outside again because I was slowly losing hope that Roald would be spending his entire Saturday inside. This time, I wasn't so lucky, as he stood his ground. Turns out he went back to curling and taking pictures of his statues. Why do you even care, Roald? You literally live with these things. I think you have enough pictures from the same angle. Come on. 11 a.m. I resorted to solely standing outside and watching him through the window. Right now, he is currently reading his bodybuilding magazine, which features the same pictures on every page. This was my breaking point. I had enough of Roald sitting inside. I wanted him to see the world, explore the beautiful island, even just go outside to fish again. Something, man. This video is about following a villager around an Animal Crossing, and this animal was not crossing anything. So, I had to pull out my only other plan I could think of, saving and quitting. I was hoping by going back to the main menu and re-entering the world that Roald would magically move somewhere else on the island. Mainly because I was positive Animal Crossing was not like Stardew Valley, where all the residents have a set schedule depending on the time of day. Upon loading back into the game, I was right. Roald was not in his house, which was a great start, but then I ran into another problem. I had to find the penguin. Easy enough, right? Haha, you'd think. I scanned my island up and down multiple times, going into all the shops and the museum with no luck. I guess Roald decided to play a little game of hide and seek, and my god was he doing a good job. I got so desperate, I was praying it was one of my villagers' birthdays and he just happened to be visiting one of their houses, which is an extremely rare event, by the way. Still, of course, it was not, and I was back to running. On my second attempt through the museum, I went into the bug section, over to the butterfly garden, only to find the red flannel wearing blue penguin once again. I'm not sure if he was here this whole time and he was just perfectly behind the big fountain at the time I ran through originally, but given his track record of standing in the same room for hours, that's the story I'm going with. I was just happy he wasn't in his house. I didn't expect to have to hunt him down for as long as I did though. So yes, there was about a 20-minute gap where I was not following him, but we're just going to assume that he was staring at butterflies while hiding from me. Noon, finally entering the PMs here, and Roald is still fascinated by the same 3 butterflies he's been looking at. Maybe if you didn't spend all your time just sitting in your house, you would have already been familiar with them. But oh, even though I could barely spend 2 minutes in here, Roald stayed for 2 hours. Gonna throw us into a little time lapse here so I don't waste too much of your time and so you get an idea of what I had to watch for 2 hours straight. By the way, I never touched my controller here. All of my character's movements are simply from Roald pushing me out of the way as he makes his 57th lap around the fountain. I did this because, again, I thought he would eventually leave on his own. Since it was the museum and not his house, he would have the free will to walk away at some point, but nope. He stayed just as committed as me to staying in the same place. 1 p.m. came and it went immediately into 2 p.m. where he was still doing the same dang thing. Well, just like at his house, I decided to save and quit in order to make Roald interesting again. Not gonna lie, I was nervous I'd have to hunt him down again, but luckily I found him pretty quickly. Turns out he was just carrying some wood around his house. He did 1 lap around before switching to his watering can and actually contributing to the island because he successfully watered a single flower. Thank you, Roald. I guess he really likes this spot as he went back to sitting on the ground alongside the river. He became a little more adventurous, waddling around the field of flowers, giving them a big old whiff. No, please don't go back in. Okay, thank God. He continued to wander around, but not straying too far from his house. He found a new place to sit near the town hall, and since it's Saturday, KK Slider is visiting the island, so I hope Roald eventually stops by there for a concert. He watered another flower next to his house before making his biggest move yet, walking across the bridge. He finally went out and explored a little besides the 10 square feet surrounding his house. But don't worry, he just leaned up against a bush, keeping his house in sight from across the river. He entered my little shopping district for a moment before going back and heading into the cafe. He made himself a cup of coffee, but never drank it. He stuck around longer than I expected though, taking in all the caf had to offer. Real quick, want to take a moment to shout out 2 p.m. This was Roald's most active hour by a mile. I wanted to keep the momentum going and see all of what he was capable of, so I hit another save and restart. Took me a couple of minutes to find him again, but turns out he was just fishing on the far side of the island. What's up, Louie? How you doing? All that fishing made Roald a little tired, so he took an afternoon nap, and his feet turned into little Pac-Man as they clipped in and out of his body. After waking up, he waddled in a circle to get the blood flowing again before going right back to fishing. Roald's a big fan of fishing, which I guess makes sense because he's a penguin. He tried to take another nap, but had a nightmare or something because he jerked awake after about a minute. Before we continue on, a word from our sponsor, BenQ. I'll be honest, watching a virtual penguin for 24 hours straight caused a lot of strain on my eyes, especially when it was dark late at night. That's why BenQ created the ScreenBar monitor light, the world's first lamp specifically designed for digital screen time. Basically, it's a light bar that attaches to the top of your monitor, allowing for better visibility on your desk itself, as well as reducing strain on those eyeballs. Installing it's super easy. Simply slide the ScreenBar into the weighted clip, plug in the included USB-C cable, and place it on top of your monitor. It has 4 touch sensor buttons on the top. From right to left, we have the power button, an auto dimming feature, and the 2 buttons on the left are for manually adjusting the brightness and hue of the light. I personally just leave it on the auto dimmer as it does all of the work for you. The light emitted from the bar is designed to reduce the fatigue you get from those late night gaming sessions and keep you energized. It's also just a nice desk lamp and attaches to the top of your screen, keeping your desk free from clutter. BenQ wanted my honest review of the ScreenBar, and I really do love it, so I was happy to promote it. I'm guilty of staying up till those early hours of the morning editing or writing scripts, and this thing really has helped me the past few weeks. Plus, it just looks super neat on my setup and makes it look even better. If you want to pick up one of these yourself, there will be links down in the description below for the Amazon and regular BenQ website. This also helps me out a lot, so thank you BenQ for the opportunity. Alright, back to the penguin. 3 p.m. Gonna be hard to top that last hour, so I saved and restarted only for him to be back in his house. Fair enough though, he really did a lot in the past hour, he deserves a little break. We had a heart-to-heart talk on the wood benches, but other than that, super boring. 4. He wandered outside with a plan to catch some bugs. He attempted to lure them in by watering another flower by his house. Good idea, Roald. A dragonfly fell for the bait, and oh boy was he eager to catch it. He ran after this thing all the way down through the town hall and into the square. I've never seen the penguins so active before. Guess the bug left his sight as he quickly lost interest in it and began to walk through all of the trees. Luckily, he found an orchid mantis just sitting on top of a flower. He broke out his primal instincts, prepared to capture the bug for himself. He crept up, got into position, and missed. Nice going, Roald. He quickly got over it though, and got back to walking around. Watered and sniffed a few more flowers before heading to his favorite hide-and-seek location, the museum. He sat down in front of the entrance, taking in the waterfalls and architecture. Afterwards, he took a pretty big walk across and back over the bridge. A butterfly crossed his path, and even with the net in his hand, he never swung at it. Maybe he's still traumatized from the first bug he missed. He ran after it, winding up his net multiple times, but he just could not pull the trigger. Reflecting on his actions, Roald plopped down underneath a peach tree, which looked like a really relaxing place to be. He wasn't done exploring, as he continued to walk around the museum area before heading back into town. Gave the airport a quick glance, but Roald wasn't ready to fly today. He headed back to his neighborhood and took on his favorite fishing spot. Didn't keep his pole out for long though, as he preferred to just sit and watch the fish swim around. Eventually, he gave it a few more attempts, but that fish wanted nothing to do with Roald. 5 p.m. came, which meant it was time for his afternoon workout. He got back into his tracksuit and picked up right where he left off with curls. He was doing this for about 20 minutes when a butterfly came over and got stuck in between Roald and the bridge, which created a really neat shot of it just floating on his beak. Roald was getting a big kick out of it too. This gave him the motivation to go and explore bugs more. He took a stroll around the neighborhood and found a stink bug hanging out on a flower. Afterwards, he went down to the beach to check out the nice views before coming back up for some more fishing. 6 p.m. now, and I got a little tired of him just fishing and sitting, so I planned to do another save and quit. This didn't work out too well, as he ended up back in his house just aimlessly wandering around again. He was warming up to my company though, as he sat on the same bench as me for a bit. That was the only notable action though, so I reloaded the game yet again. The sun was starting to set, so Roald grabbed a brown paper bag and headed into the town plaza. Plopped down next to the fountain to reflect on the day, but he saw his friend Tangy walk by, so he got up for a quick chat. Not sure what they were talking about, so I just creepily stood there until he waddled off, where he ran into Ribbot. But this time, I wanted to know what they were discussing. Just wanted to make sure Roald wasn't trying to get a restraining order for me or something. Turns out, Roald felt his post-game interview skills were lacking, so Ribbot offered to help him out. He claimed he does 9,542 push-ups every day. Don't mean to be that person, but I've literally been watching you since you woke up, and you haven't done a single one yet. Maybe he cranks out all 9,000 right before bed, but you're kind of running out of time. Success starts and ends with triceps, eh? Then why have you only done dumbbell curls? I'm starting to question if Roald really knows what he's talking about with this whole exercise thing. But that was that, and they went their separate ways. 7 o'clock, and he finally did what I've wanted him to do. Visit KK Slider. Had some other villagers join us on the stools, so I figured it was time for him to perform. We had a nice time getting serenaded by a dog, while watching the credits roll by. We stuck around for a while just listening to him jam out as the sun finally set, and it started getting dark. Eventually, he took an intermission, grabbed some orange soda can, and strolled through the flowers. After he got his sniffs in, he went right back to KK. Now it was just us two, so we had a little private concert. That was enough for him though, and he went back into his neighborhood. Didn't do a whole lot after that besides sit and watch the stars for a little bit. 8. It's starting to get late, so I was curious what Roald does when the sun goes down. He went over to the far side of the island to check out the other neighborhood, but immediately turned back around and slowly crept his way back to KK Slider. This was becoming the new version of his house, as he just could not stay away from the dang dog. I even saved and quit here, but he stayed, determined to hearing him play. 9 p.m. Guess where he still is? I decided he'd heard enough, and I reloaded the save one more time. Got different results this time as he was cranking out some more curls under the moonlight. After changing back into his flannel, he started walking with a purpose. And it turns out that purpose was only to annoy me even more as he sat right back down on those wooden stools. Try to do the whole credits thing again in hopes that that would satisfy his ears. Does he even have ears? A save and reset later, and he was back in his house, finishing that lollipop he shoved into his pockets earlier. Couldn't be asked to stick around, so we're saving and quitting right into 10 p.m. The perfect time to wear sunglasses. Roald was back to working out with them curls. I didn't even know he owned sunglasses, so why did he wait until now to pull them out? Luckily, he took them off shortly after and took a nice walk around the island. He had enough willpower not to stop at KK Slider again, which was great. Walked over and up to the museum, but didn't go inside. I really wanted to visit the aquarium with him, but I don't think that's happening today. Went down to the beach and soccer field for a little bit, but headed back to his house shortly after. Getting really tired of sitting in here, Roald. I shoved him back outside where he sat under the stars. He had his lollipop with him, so it was the perfect end to a perfect day. 11, it's getting late and Roald is in his house. I was curious if he'd ever kick me out when he wanted to go to bed, but we still had some time. He came back outside with bug net in hand, but he never tried to catch anything. And of course he had to stop by KK one more time to get that bedtime lullaby. He ended off the night by strolling around the neighborhood some more and sat down by this bridge. Still have not seen him do the 9,542 push-ups he claims he does every day, and he's almost out of time. Just kidding, Roald is back at KK Slider, but I'm not even mad about it this time, as this happened. Right as the clock struck 11:59, all the villagers sitting there hopped off their seats and began to walk away. I don't even know why, but this caught me very off guard. I guess KK has to sleep sometime too. Midnight. Roald was not ready to turn in just yet, so he sat down next to a tree where Wolf was hanging out. Thought he had a flight to catch or something because he was just hanging out by the airport for a couple minutes as well. Other than that though, he stayed way more active than I thought he would have. I thought the second midnight hit and they all got out of their chairs in sync, Roald would have went in, but he stayed waddling around the island for a while and sat down next to Boots to watch him fish. He finally complimented my flannel shirt, which was nice. Glad it took him the whole day. Had a chat with Sterling and then pretty much shoved poor Louie right out of the way. Clearly could have just waited or walked around him, but nope, Roald wanted to give him a good old sniff. Right after that though, he took a beeline for his house, which I knew meant he was done for the night. Sadly, he locked the door behind him and said he was in workout recovery mode. Well, I guess that's it then. Kind of anticlimactic, but I wasn't really expecting more than that. Since this video is following him around for 24 hours, it's only right that I stick out the few remaining hours. 1 a.m., still inside. 2 a.m., still inside. 3 a.m., still inside. 4 a.m., guess what? 5 a.m., almost at the end here, but still no sign of life. And 6 a.m. Roald will probably be waking up around 6:30 again, but we aren't sticking around for it. This was a 24-hour challenge, not 24 and a half. So there you have it. If you ever wondered what a villager in Animal Crossing does during an entire day, you are welcome. Yes, I did reset a couple of times, but that's only because I wanted to keep Roald interesting. If I sat in his house from the moment he woke up, I'm not sure he ever would have left. Same thing with that dang butterfly garden, that was just ridiculous. But still, I had a lot of fun doing this, so I hope you enjoyed it as well. I'm gonna be doing some more dumb stuff in Animal Crossing like this, so subscribe if you want to see that. Also again, please check out the BenQ ScreenBar monitor light if it's something you are interested in. It's actually a bigger help than you'd think it'd be. But for now, I'm gonna get up out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, see ya!